Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Really do appreciate your support as always. Hope you're having a fantastic day. More huge Indiana Fever news in the WNBA. They were as quiet as could be until the time was the time to start making the moves, start making the announcements, and letting people know how they have been spending their off season. And they have been busy. They have been busy. We got the Natasha Howard news with the signing, with the Sophie Cunningham news coming in, and Nalyssa Smith going out. And now we have, look, just the other day, had a conversation. People were saying, "Hey, is there more coming? I think there's going to be one more signing." I said, "Yeah, what if they signed Dewonna Bonner? That could be the sign of the end times, at least for the other teams in the WNBA." And what do we have here? Dewonna Bonner to 1-year deal with the Indiana Fever. This is absolutely wild on a number of levels. Bonner is a six-time All-Star, two-time All WNBA. She's a WNBA champ. This is wild. She is 7 points away, by the way, from moving up to number 3 on the league's all-time scoring list. She is a 15-year veteran who, by the way, though, is playing at an incredibly high level. This is wild, and we're gonna take a minute to take a look at this as well, just to give you an idea. And I'll scroll up just a bit. I mean, let's look at this. She's been in the league 15 years. Okay, in 2024, by the way, she played all 40 games. She played all 40 games in 2023 as well, averaging over 30 minutes a game. But check this out. And this is in a long career, right? She's played 502 games in 15 seasons. Last year, 15 points a game. Her career average is 14.9. Last year, 6 rebounds a game. Her career average is 6.1. Last year, 2 assists. Her career average is 2.3. I'm gonna give you two more numbers. All right. So just hold on. Field goal percentage, 41.5% last year, 41.6 for her career. 3-point percentage, 29.4 last year, 30.4 for her career. I give you another wild one. Look, last 5 games of the season were the Minnesota Lynx playoff games. Guess what she averaged? Yeah, exactly 15 points a game, scored in double figures every single game. Now, one of the big things for this, by the way, now she is a guard, guard forward, so we'll probably call she played the 3, but I think the way she plays, she's long, she's lean. I think she moves well enough and is tall enough and has enough length that she can pretty much play any position, at least defensively. But this shows me one thing that is absolutely certain. The Indiana Fever are not messing around. They are not saying, "Hey, we've got this young core of Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, and we're going to build around them. We're going to build up, and we're looking, 2 or 3 years down the road to start competing for championships." No, they said, "Look, we'll get down the road as well, but we're also going to compete right now because they have made deals." Bonner's on a 1-year deal. They've got Bonner, who's going to be 38 years old, 15 years in the league, but again, playing at a high level, but she's not going to be around with Caitlin Clark for a long time, right? Natasha Howard, 33 years old, also a veteran, not going to be around for the later runs either, but they didn't give up anything for these players. They're going to get some productive production out of them right now, even if they're not going to be around in 5 or 6 years. They're going to allow the Indiana Fever to compete for titles right now without the Fever mortgaging their future because again, they signed them as free agents. Now, couple of things. Hopefully, I have so many tabs open for this now, but let me see. Let's go with this first. This was the playoffs, right? And then this uh, shows you a couple of things with Bonner. She can have a little bit of sense of humor, but also flexibility that I was talking about. And again, coming from a defensive team, another thing that the Indiana Fever need. So take a quick listen to this.
You've been asked to do something today that you haven't done all season. Guard Caitlin Clark. She's 0 for 3 when you're defending her. How have you made your presence felt there?
Well, let me knock on some wood real quick. She's a great player. I know she's going to come out second half ready to go, so I got a key in.
Now there you go, folks, and that was a nice block, and that's what I mean. If you look at the way Bonner is built, at 6'4", she's long, right? She's long, about Lexi Hall, so they play bigger than their height anyway. She moves well enough to guard Caitlin Clark driving to the basket, and that's what I say, because one of the things that's gonna get really interesting with this is a lot of people are going under the assumption right away, okay, the lineup's going to be Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell in the backfield, Dewonna Bonner at the 3, she's the small forward, Natasha Howard's the power forward, Aaliyah Boston is the center. And maybe that may be the lineup very well. Like, if you look at the roster, that's what stands out, and you say that's the lineup. But I'm not I'm not completely sure on that, and here's why. Dewonna Bonner is not a three-point shooter. Natasha Howard is not a three-point shooter. Aaliyah Boston is not a three-point shooter. So now you have a team, the Indiana Fever, that in the way they played in their style, the three-point shot was a huge part of their offense, especially in half court, spacing the court properly, which is why it was great having Dantas playing well at the end of the season, as opposed to having, say, a Nalyssa Smith on the court, who was basically going to clog the paint with Aaliyah Boston. Instead, you get someone like Dantas out there to spread the court as well. You don't have that by having Bonner and Howard out there. Now your three-point shooters are just Clark and just Mitchell. You don't have that player spaced out in the corner that you can kick the ball to for a wide open three. So is that going to be the starting lineup? I think if you're looking at it on paper, that's what pops out, and you say yes. I'm not thoroughly convinced it is. It may be. I mean, I don't know if Bonner or Howard are going to sign here if they're being told you're not starting. But here's the thing to that. There's going to be plenty of minutes for all of them, because now, first of all, they have a little depth, because let's say that is the starting lineup. Clark, Mitchell, Bonner, Howard, Boston. Now what's your bench look like? Sophie Cunningham's coming off the bench. Lexi Hull is coming off the bench. Samiras Dantas off the bench. Grace Berger, and I know a lot of people are still, they have their questions because they haven't really gotten a chance to see her, but I promise you Grace Berger is going to be in a very, very effective backup at the guard position. And so that right there is already 9 deep, right? You just rattle off those names. That's a deeper fever team than we had last year. And we still haven't mentioned Katie Lou, who, yeah, I know she didn't have a great year last year, but I look at her in Unrivaled. She's definitely lost some weight. She definitely looks fitter. She's moving better. Will that translate to a better year? I don't know. But my point being, sometimes from some athletes that I've talked to that have gone through that, they say sometimes it can take another year after having the baby to kind of fully get back your athletic body and movement, right? Sort of like when you have an ACL injury, a lot of athletes will tell you that first season is kind of you're not yourself yet. Yeah, you're healthy, there's no pain, but you just don't have that same movement. You don't have that same explosiveness, and it's kind of like that. So the Fever at this point could be 10 players deep, folks, which is absolutely fantastic for this team. Um, Thing I wanted to talk about on that is the flexibility aspect of it in terms of what they play, which is why I wanted to play that clip with Bonner and Clark, because you've got Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hall, who I think can play the 2, the 3, or the 4 because of the way they're built and because of the way they're moving. I think you just heard Bonner guarding Caitlin Clark, who's the 1. I think Bonner can guard most any position. So so I think she could probably also play the 3 or the 4. I think Natasha Howard can play the 3, possibly the 4, the 3 at least offensively. I think she moves pretty well. She probably could play it defensively as well. So you have a lot of flexibility in this lineup. And the other thing I'd like to point out with this depth is players may play fewer minutes than they're used to, but those minutes might seem like more because the Fever is going to play up tempo, especially with the depth they have. They've got players that, even though they're older, and that's why I say maybe they play a little less, Howard, Cunningham, Bonner can all get out in the open court and they can all finish. So that is going to be huge, and we already know you're gonna get that with Kelsey Mitchell. We already know you're gonna get that with Lexi Hull. Dantas, as we saw at the end of the season, of anyone who's been watching highlights of her playing overseas, he looks fitter as well. She's moving better. I'm seeing her running because don't forget she came into the season off an injury, very rusty, not in shape, hadn't played with Caitlin Clark, and she got better and better as the season went along. So I think that is going to be huge as well. And we also have this, don't forget. We also have this. Oh, but let me see if I can get all the way to Caitlin Clark. Anybody remember this? Caitlin Clark and Dewonna Bonner. Yeah, yeah, that's right. They're gonna get a little feisty, aren't they? They're gonna get a little bit feisty, which was good to see. And Dewonna Bonner willing to come to Indiana. I think, that's just her play. I don't think she said something nice about Caitlin Clark in that interview. Honestly, I don't I don't think this is something that was personal. I think we saw a lot of personal stuff with Caitlin Clark this past season. With that, I think it was just Bonner and an opposing player that they were irritating each other and getting under each other's skin. I don't think it was a personal Caitlin Clark thing. I mean, clearly she came to the Fever, which goes to the next thing I did want to talk about, which is absolutely wild. Well, first, let me say so many people, and I mean, I could round up. It's amazing. Fever fans are digging up tweets from, a while back because all the hatelins out there saying there's no way, no free agents are coming to Indiana. No free agents are going to go play in front of that awful, hateful, ist faux fan base. It's just not going to happen. And then we signed Natasha Howard. And then the Fever signed Dewonna Bonner. And what makes this one kind of a little bit extra, folks, is we all know who Dewonna Bonner's married to, Alyssa Thomas, who just went to Phoenix. And Bonner, not only, now, Alyssa Thomas, who called all the Fever fans the R word after that playoff game. I think we all remember that post game press conference when the mustard sat next to her, basically saying the same thing. And here we go. Dewonna Bonner, married to Alyssa Thomas, Dewonna Bonner signing as a free agent with the Indiana Fever. That is absolutely wild to me. So let me tell you a couple of things that we also got that I think is absolutely cool, which is what I like right here. The Indiana Fever, one of the big complaints I've gotten from the entire fan base. Too nice, too nice. The only player with an edge, Caitlin Clark. The only player with a little mean in her, a little feisty, a little psycho athlete, Caitlin Clark. Well, guess what? Natasha Howard has a little bit of that edge, folks. Sophie Cunningham has got a lot of that edge, folks. Dewonna Bonner has that edge, folks. And they also all bring not just that edge and that mentality in general, and that I'm not backing down from anything stuff. I'm not letting you get away from anything stuff. You are not going to mess with my point guard. I guarantee you that. Not only do they all bring that, they all bring defensive ability as well. Bonner is coming over from Connecticut Sun, a very good defensive team, to rejoin the head coach she just had. So that tells you something as well about the relationship they had. Stephanie White obviously knows everything she's going to get from Dewonna Bonner. Obviously, they had a good relationship in Connecticut, or there's no way Bonner would sign. Obviously, Bonner, even with what Alyssa Thomas was saying, not really buying all that fan nonsense because why would she come to Indiana? Obviously, does not have a problem other than this moment we're looking at with Caitlin Clark. Otherwise, she's not coming to Indiana. So this is wild. Do they have another move in them? They might. They really might. I don't know. We still have Christy Wallace on the roster. So do they want to unload? Now, I don't know about the cap. I'd have to look at that again. It's not a lot to it unless they are replacing someone. That's the thing. So does Christy Wallace go? Is that a possibility? Is Katie Lou? The problem with Katie Lou is I don't think anyone wants her with that contract, right? If she was, $120,000 a year player instead of 180, maybe a team is interested in bringing in that kind of presence. Maybe a team like Golden State looking for that kind of veteran leadership or something. But now the Fever are a very, very different team than they were last year, folks. A very, very different team. That lineup goes up with anyone. Like I said, if that is the lineup, you've got Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, Demiris Dantas coming off the bench. And I think Grace Berger will show that she is a very, very capable backup guard on this team. I mean, I think Grace Berger on another team could, given the opportunity, could find herself starting. That's how highly I think of her. So I think she's going to be a great backup for Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. I think, again, flexibility. I think Grace, with the style of point guard Caitlin plays, Grace could absolutely play in the same backcourt with her. Either one of them could have the ball or play off the ball. So I think this team it's a much different team defensively. It's a much different team in terms of their mentality. It's a much different team in terms of their depth. It's a much different teams in terms of their flexibility and where they can play and how they want to play and how they want to match up with the other team or make the other team match up with them is really maybe how I should put it. Because I think they might find the other teams are going to find that the Fever are a nightmare matchup. So that's going to be interesting as well. So there's a lot of good things to say about what just happened this past week with the Fever and what they've done and what this front office has done. So it's going to be really interesting to see the direction Stephanie White goes because I think this is one of those teams where it's going to become pick your poison. I mean, what do you want to stop? They are going to get more stops. Now, again, I think they'll give up a lot of points just if they run as much as I think they'll run, just because when you run and you shoot quick and you take shots early in the shot clock, obviously there's more possessions per team per game. So even if you're playing better defensively, you might be giving up more points just because the other team's getting more opportunities. But they are clearly going to be better defensively. So it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, depth, flexibility, mentality. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how this goes for the Indiana Fever. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team can do on the court, see how quickly they get into being comfortable playing with each other because that's the other thing we saw last year with the Indiana Fever and the amount of time it took to kind of get used to how Caitlin Clark plays. Get your hands up, passes can come at any time, all that type of stuff, the up tempo. And now you've got Natasha Howard coming in and Bonner coming in and Cunningham coming in. But again, they've seen all that. And now they can get in there and go play and practice with Caitlin Clark. This isn't like they're just jumping in without a training camp or anything kind of like last year. They'll get that opportunity to get that familiarity, to practice, to bond, to all that stuff that is important to team chemistry for a team that's, basically this Fever organization has said we're going to win a championship this year. Not as in we're definitely going to do it, but that's our goal. We are going for that. We are going out there to win one now, not to build a team to win one in a few years down the road with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. We want to go win now. And so we've made the changes that we think are going to help us go do that. So this is going to be really, really interesting to watch. It's going to be, and there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of flexibility. Bonner may come off the bench. I don't know. And like I said, if you run the way I think they're gonna run also, you might play 25 minutes a game and it's gonna feel like the 32 you played last year per game. You see, right? You see what I'm saying? And you're gonna get the same amount of opportunities because the team's gonna have more possessions. But yeah, I think this is a big signing for the Indiana Fever on multiple levels. The whole no one's gonna want to play there, and then you throw in it's someone like Bonner going with what happened with Alyssa Thomas, Natasha Howard going there because let's face it, you had people went nuts when they traded for Sophie Cunningham, right? They were like, "Oh, well, she fits in perfect with that nasty fan base and blah blah blah." And it's like, yeah, well, that was in a trade, but Natasha Howard and Dewonna Bonner went to Indiana willingly, folks. They said, "Hey, you know what? From what we see, I want to play there. I want to go play in front of those big crowds that are cheering for me. I want to go play with a player like Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hall. I want to go play with a team like that and try and get myself a championship because I think it'll be a lot of fun." So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, let me know what you think about the the lineup, what you think it will be and what you want it to be. Because I know they're not always the same, right? They're not always the same. But yeah, hit me up. Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you checking out this video as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help out tremendously. I know I say it every video. You probably get sick of hearing it. You click off before I get to this part. But it's the only way the channel survives and grows, folks. It really is your generosity and taking that moment to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. So I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to you later.